My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. Winter is coming, and along with winter comes lots of rain, and so I have to build a shed over the boat, and I'm researching what I'm going to do for that project, but I think it's going to end up being like a Gothic arch, or some people call it a bow shed style boat shed. I had to rent this machine to dig holes for the pilings. We poured cement pilings to make sure that the shed was going to stay in place. Lift with those legs.
So what are you doing, Matt?
Leveling this footing.
And what are these for?
They're footings for the shed. After we had poured the footings, it was time to build the frames for the shed. To build the frames, I had to build a jig. The jig was a platform built out of 4x8 sheets of OSB, and then I drew out the shape of the frame onto this platform and laid little 1-inch tall blocks where the shear web blocks would go. Then to build the frame, we would lay down the 4x4 leg, the 4x4 that goes up at the top where the two frames come together, and then all the shear web blocks on top of the jig blocks. And then we would bend the 20-foot long 1x4s around the outside and the inside of the jig and glue and screw together as we clamped it as well, going around the jig. I was really lucky to have Larry come and give me a hand for the weekend, and we were able to get all 12 of them done in 2 days.
Hi, I'm Larry. Matt's wife is my niece, so I've been able to come up from Oregon to visit not only my daughter who lives in this area, but also my niece, and to help Matt and his wife with their project of building Duracell. It's an exciting project and one that I look forward to helping with whenever I'm in the area. I'm excited partly because I have built small boats before, but this one is so much larger.
This is the plan that I was going off of. You can see that on here I drew, this is the platform that I built out of the OSB, these rectangular pieces here, and then there were 2 triangle pieces and then another half sheet right here. And then so this is the 8-foot 4x4, and these are all the little 2x4 6-inch long blocks that make up the shear web with the 1x4s on either side, and my parts list. I decided on a bow shed for a few reasons. One being that it was cheap. 2 being that it is relatively easy to build. It took probably a total of 40 hours, maybe 50 hours to get the whole thing done. I also wanted to be able to reuse it, maybe for another boat project in the future, or we could make it shorter, cut the legs off, and actually turn it into a little tiny house in the future, which I really hope we do. After the frames were built, it was pretty easy to put the shed together by myself. It just was a matter of putting each frame together and then laying them up against the center beam and lining them up with the pilings and fastening it all together. I got it done just in time for the real weather to start. It was pretty much blowing a gale when I put the cover on. Luckily we have all these trees around the boat and the property, and so we have some pretty good wind blocking with the trees. Still, putting the cover over was pretty exciting. Once the cover was down, it was just a matter of fastening it all together. It's actually shrink wrap material, and I decided I'm not going to actually shrink wrap it. I just pulled it tight around the frames and stapled it all together. Used some battens to hold it down. And so for the time being, I'm feeling finished with my shed. And so as you can see, what it turned out being is 6 frames. It's actually built in 12 parts. There's 2 halves were put together to make one. And they're connected down the center by one long beam and at the ground level on the footings. This is a modified plan from Louisiana State University plan that I found online for free. The modification is that the boat is basically the ground level on their plan, and I needed to raise this up about 8 feet, and so I added 4x4s at the base, going from the base or the ground level up to the boat level to raise the whole thing up. The problem with that is that it made the structure a little bit more unstable from side to side, and so I added these 2x4s that connect the boat from the stanchions to the side of the shed, and that makes it really, really tough. What it has to hold up to mostly is the wind. It's super windy here every once in a while. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. It's going to be awesome for working on the boat in the wintertime. Now that I've got this thing built, the next step of the project is to cut out the cockpit and cut off this pilot house off the boat. So I have half a mind to do it right now, but I don't know if I'm going to.
Like right now.
Like right now.